Welcome to another episode of CC Top Solutions. This episode, we're going to work on our 66 Mustang that has developed a coolant leak between the timing chain cover and the block. So we're gonna go ahead and replace that gasket. In order to do that, we need to at least take the two front bolts out of the oil pan. If we're going that far, I might as well replace the oil pan and completely clean up, dress up, spray paint, rattle can rebuild, whatever, the engine. So when we're done, this should look like $1 million, and most importantly, it won't leak anymore. Here, if you want to watch me move the car, it sounds awesome. Hasn't been driven or started since June. Here we are in January. First, I better put a battery in it. Battery installed. Listen to this. Poly projection fuel injection. Not bad, right? We're making progress. We're taking apart the front of the engine in order to replace this timing cover gasket. Along the way, I'm also going to go ahead and helicoil this bolt hole right here. That hole frequently strips out because you need a real short bolt thread-wise to get into there, and then the thickness of here, I mean, you can see you only get engagement of maybe 1/2 inch tops, and it's aluminum, and what happens is you always get leaks, or frequently get leaks down here. So people over-tighten that and strip it out. So I've replaced this in the past, I'd say 3 or 4 years. Look at this. I just took this thing out. I did a terrible job replacing this, and don't make the same mistake as me. There was a piece of cellophane or something on the gasket. I think this was supposed to be self-adhesive, so I never took that off. So I think that it was leaking because of that plastic, which, shame on me. Don't let that happen to you. Okay, we got the timing chain cover off. Everything's exposed. You can see the block is filthy. I'm gonna clean all that up and spray paint it. It's gonna look good. But down here, when we were removing our oil pan, we had to drop our cross member, which normally goes, left to right from here across. We had to drop that, and we also had to drop our steering. We dropped our idler arm right from the frame, and we dropped our pitman arm right off the steering box to get everything out of the way. Pitman arm was a real pain in the neck. Had to hit at it with the air impact fork, and then ultimately with the 4-pound Tanya Harding, I think is what Vice Grip Garage calls it. But ultimately, here we are, coming down. Here is the bottom end on my 66 289. I just took a look at the casting numbers. It actually is a 65 289. This was rebuilt by Withers Performance in Collingswood, New Jersey back in 1998 or 99. They're since out of business. The crank in this looks new. I don't understand. I don't remember having a new crank put in this. But I don't know, I guess it's just how they cleaned it up. But either way, pretty cool down here. I love seeing the inside of the engine like this. Pretty rare you get to see it. Now we're going to work on putting our new oil pan back on. There was no surprises with taking this apart other than dropping those linkages. Here's how the front of our engine's working out. We're about ready to start spraying it. It is still cold in here. It was 38 this morning. We've been running the heater for a while. It's probably about 50 now. Progressing nicely. We've laid in our nice new Facebook Marketplace rebuild. Magic, worked like a champ. As you can see, we bolted on some old valve covers. These were both covered in grease and oil and stuff. We threw them in the ultrasonic cleaner to see how that would work out. It actually worked pretty good. And this is an old timing cover that we also threw in the ultrasonic cleaner just to see how that would work out. And we use that just to block off our gasketed surfaces. It's all good. Here's a little show and tell. You can see the pulley on the left. That one I've already wire brushed to get the remainder of the paint off. The one on the right I haven't touched yet. It still has that weird residual texture to it. Now this is something else I noticed. I ended up buying myself a new timing cover. This is one of those ones you can get off of eBay for, I don't know, I think after shipping it was like $100, whatever. Note that hole in that gasket surface, how complete it is. Take a look at my original timing cover. This is actually how it came out of the cleaner, the ultrasonic cleaner. I have not wiped this one down yet. But look at the erosion. Coincidentally, that is where my gasket failed. So there was actually almost no gasket surface left there. Probably a contributing factor to the failure. So, I'm not going to reuse that timing cover. Pretty interesting. For any real Ford enthusiasts or Cobra enthusiasts, these are actual Buddy Barr casting valve covers. They're my dad's from 1960, I don't know, 8 or so. And they are going back to him, and I'm going to put some new valve covers on this. I read a lot of internet discussion about these Buddy Barr valve covers, and a lot of people seem to say they would have a set where only one would be marked Buddy Barr casting. This set is original, and both of them are marked Buddy Barr casting. So I don't really know what to make of that. If the folks that are out there that have only one marked have one actual casting and one reproduction casting, but these ones, both valve covers are clearly marked Buddy Barr casting, and these are definitely originals. Really cool looking valve covers. Great news, my new valve covers have arrived. When I say new, they're new old stock. These are discontinued Ford Racing valve covers, and boy, they look good. I am gonna clear coat them though. That's something I always do, because otherwise the aluminum fins, it doesn't take long for them to look kind of beat up. But see how the new Ford Racing ones, the ones on the right, have way more of an angle to them than the old Buddy Barr Cobra powered by Ford ones? That basically mimics a big block Ford valve cover. These things are gonna look awesome once I put them on the car. Next step, clear coat. I had an old aluminum water pump laying around that I had installed years ago and took it off for whatever reason. And anyways, it had gotten dirty, like in these areas around here, there was just crud buildup. So I put this into the ultrasonic washer with the Simple Green is my cleaning detergent. And what happened, see how this is all like blackened? Large portions of it turned the same way. I'm not sure what caused it. I cleaned it all up with steel wool. I mean, you can see how it, I don't know what that is, but it does look like Simple Green reacts with aluminum. So if you're gonna put aluminum into your heated ultrasonic cleaner, beware. You're gonna have to go through afterwards with some steel wool to clean it all up. The paint on our front of our engine is nice and dry. Our gasket surfaces are nice and clean. Now we're gonna go ahead and put our thermostat back onto the intake. Now here it is. Notice we have a spotless working surface to avoid all possibilities of contamination. We have our water pump and thermostat gasket maker, and we have our gasket itself, and nice stylish rubber glove. All we're gonna do is take our gasket maker, put it all around both sides of the gasket, put some on here. This is an O-ring thermostat housing. It's not ideal, but that's what I have. And then we're gonna bolt it up to the engine. Before we actually bolt it on there, before we even apply the gasket compound, we're gonna go ahead and make sure we have our hardware and fasteners ready to go. When we put it on, we're not gonna torque it down all the way. We're gonna snug it up and then let it sit 24 hours for this stuff to harden. Then we'll torque it to, I don't know, let's say 15 foot-pounds. Voila, gasket in place along with plenty of water pump sealant. Came out perfect, and I don't have a single drop on my hand. Now we've reached a point where we're gonna go ahead and put our harmonic damper main seal in. Goes into the timing cover right here. Now the way this seal goes in, right? Just like this. And I'm gonna put a little bit of trusty grease all around here because we're gonna have to tap it in with this. I'm just joshing you, we're not gonna use that. We're gonna use a much smaller hammer, and we're gonna do it with a piece of wood over it. This is Ford Racing Performance part wood. Piece of wood over it, and just push it right in nice and gentle, making sure it doesn't get misaligned. Well, it's a beautiful night for a cookout. You would think we might be taking a little bit of a time out from working on the Mustang, but no, we're not. I learned this playing around with powder coating. Hey, does that look familiar? It should. That is our fisheye problem bracketry. I've gone ahead, cleaned them all off again. Didn't take a whole lot. And now what I'm gonna do is barbecue them. Get these suckers up to, I don't know, 400, 450, something like that. And what happens is it ends up cooking all the oil out of them. And then, next time I go to paint them, little to no fisheye. It's a skill. Here's one last shot before we go ahead and paint it. This really gives you an appreciation for just how blued the metal became. Pretty interesting. Well, if you don't think this is interesting, just wait till you watch the following sequence where we let the paint dry. This is a very tricky operation. Anytime we bring the cameras into the paint booth, we need to ensure we don't get overspray on the lens. So we have our camera upwind from where the wind is blowing from. Pro tip. First coat of paint is on, and as you can see, not one fisheye. So baking the parts made all the difference in the world. We have our timing cover and water pump installed along with our alternator bracket. Look how nice that paint turned out, and our dipstick tube. That needs to be bent a little bit, but it's in place. Everything is torqued down reasonably tight, but not super tight yet. You know, the RTV has only been on for a couple of hours, and technically you're supposed to wait 24 hours and then torque it to spec, which is like 20 foot-pounds. Now down here, we've cleaned off our entire bottom of our engine for our oil pan gasket, as you can see. And you really don't want to chintz out on an oil pan gasket. See those little blue studs in the back there? Those came with the oil pan gasket that I bought, and what you do is you just push the gasket up over those, it holds it in place, and then you put the pan on, and then you take those out and put your bolts in. Makes life so much easier. You have to be real careful when you're putting in your rear main seal and front main seal to get it in that groove just right. As far as how the bottom of the engine looks, well, what do you think? I think it looks pretty good for, you know, I don't know, 20-ish years old with me abusing it through my age 20s and 30s. It's held up pretty well. Lots and lots of 6,500 RPM shifts. See our screen right there? That worked good with our old oil pan. We should just check the clearance from the bottom of our block, which would be the top of the oil pan, to the bottom of the oil pan. Make sure the old one and the new one match so that this pickup isn't going to be too close to the bottom of the new one and cause an oil suction disruption. I like that. A suction disruption issue. We don't want that. To show you guys what I mean about our potential suction disruption, for this oil pan, you can see that we have about 7.5 inches from the bottom of the block, which would be the very top of the oil pan, to the bottom of the oil pan. Our original oil pan, we have about probably 7 and looks like 7/16. So they are fairly close, but the key is, see how this one is a 1/16 shallower? If that 1/16 of an inch is so shallow that it actually is contacting the screen. No, never mind, they're the same. But you can get a difference where this would be so shallow so your oil pan pickup bottoms out against this and you won't get any suction. It won't be able to suck any oil out. You end up getting like basically a vacuum there. You just suck air through and you destroy your engine. That's what we just measured. We wanted to make sure we weren't going to run into any issues like that. That's what I'm talking about. You see how the oil pan gasket is held in place by those plastic studs that are screwed in? This is the high dollar Felpro that is worth every penny. Alright, the oil pan is up. Now it's time to take out our screw-in plastic studs that came with the kit. These things made installing the oil pan a piece of cake. Once we're done pulling our plastic studs and replacing with the correct hardware and torquing our oil pan, we're going to go ahead and reinstall our steering linkage. So we're going to move all this back up. We're going to reconnect. Oh, here's our other drop light. We're going to reconnect to our steering box. And over on this side, we're going to reconnect our pitman arm to our front subframe. We're almost done putting the whole front of the engine back together. It's coming out great. I decided to not be lazy and I redid all the wiring over here. Originally the starter solenoid was there, but that was bypassed from when I did the clutch and transmission job and I installed the new high torque starter. So the starter solenoid was really only functioning as 2 terminal boards, which now there are 2 terminal boards in place. I haven't hooked the battery up yet, but everything else is installed except these grounds right here and the radiator hoses. Originally I had all these grounds, look how nasty these are. I had installed those in, I don't know, 1999, right here. And we had talked about this previously in a video. Yes, you can ground to your cylinder head, but then you end up with current flow going through your head bolts and head and possibly head gasket, and personally I'm not a fan. It's probably fine, but I don't like doing it. So what I'm gonna do is redo these ground wires and just run a new wire all the way around directly to our battery negative. You can't beat that ground. Now don't worry, I do have a ground going to the block that's down here, and it goes directly to the block. You can't see it, but rest assured, it is there. How awesome are these valve covers? Exactly. We're oiling this up and putting the antifreeze in. Came out beautiful. Some of you might be curious, what oil do I use in this high performance machine? Well, this is it. I don't really care for the auto parts store variety of oils. Lately I haven't been able to get anything with high zinc levels, and this is an old school, this is a hydraulic flat tappet cam. I don't want to run the risk of wiping that cam out. I love this engine. If it costs me a little bit extra to just go to Amazon Prime and order the VR1 synthetic, that's what I'll do. I use synthetic because this engine gets driven a couple hundred miles a year. So I can change synthetic and let it sit for years and not worry about it. Whereas regular oil turns acidic just sitting. I don't want to ruin the engine by doing that. So without further ado, let's put in our full synthetic VR1 2050. This stuff, check it out. It comes out, this looks almost purple or black. Like it's probably difficult for you guys to see it, but it's kind of a purplish color oil. To be fair though, I did not used to use this. So this is my first set of oil using it. I always just used to use Mobil 1 high mileage because that had additional levels of zinc. But I haven't been able to get that at the auto parts stores lately. I don't know. It just isn't there. So I figured I would just Amazon this stuff. 50 bucks for 6 quarts. Not too bad. Something else I forgot to mention that some of you may have noticed. I just changed this thermostat and there was coolant in this system. Look how clean it is down there. Some of you might be wondering how I do that. The way I do it is I drain down the radiator a little bit, but even then, you still end up with coolant basically trapped up in these areas. So I take this hose off right here and I use a shop vac and hold it to here and I just suck all the coolant out. And when you do that, you end up not getting a single drip down there, which is really cool. Especially since I just put all this time into cleaning up the front of this engine. I couldn't help myself. I had to fire it up. I wanted to check a couple things. I did do the wiring that we had just talked about. That's all hooked up. I wanted to make sure that this one wire alternator was actually working. So I cranked it and I wanted to see if I had ignition juice and stuff like that. And you know what? It sounded so awesome. I just want to share this with you guys. This car is great. Sound awesome? Running good. We butted it all up, topped off our antifreeze, we retightened our thermostat housing, so that's good to go. And as you can see, we've got no leaks. It's running pretty good. I'm letting it come up to temperature just to make sure there's no leaks. And then we're taking it down to a local classic car dealer for a cars and coffee event. It's 28 degrees out here right now, so a little chilly, but whatever. I am psyched. The car sounds awesome. Purple Hornies, not bad. All right, time to go for a spin. Another item of interest, that timing pointer, you can see it right over there. That is not what you would normally see on a 65, 66 Mustang. I like that one better though. That's what you would see 67 and up. But when I bought the new timing cover, it was a different style and that's the type it needed, so that's what I put on it. What do you guys think? How's it sound? Right? Not too bad. Here, you want to hear it from this angle? torque you on. RPM. Well, we finished. Everything is back together. I have very little, if any, leaks as far as coolant goes. I have a very minor oil leak coming off of here, but that's not a problem. I'll fix it. You can actually see it dripping right now. The engine turned out beautiful. The valve covers, I couldn't be happier. I ended up putting an air cleaner that's not exactly the one I wanted, but it's close enough. And I ended up putting a little more timing into the engine. Huge improvement. This always used to be difficult to get rolling. The problem was I had almost no timing at like 500 to 700 RPM. Now I've got about 22 degrees of timing in that range, so it does not stumble anymore. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get some beautiful footage of me driving it. So I hope everybody enjoyed watching that episode. I had a ton of fun making it. Coming episodes, I think I'm gonna return to my roots. Honest Abe, my 69 Continental. I threw a couple of alternator belts a couple of weeks ago. I think it's because the water pump bushing is shot, so it's all wibbly wobbly. So I was playing around, I had it to the floor, I was driving to and from town, running some errands, and one belt had thrown many months ago. The second belt reversed on me. And I've noticed it at a gas station. I figured I could make it home, and I barely did. The belt fell all the way off before I got home, and I got the hot idiot light. So hey, I know that works, but long story short, the next thing I'm gonna film is replacing the water pump on our 69 Lincoln Continental 460. It's not gonna be nearly as fun or exciting as working on the Mustang was, but it will still be a quality piece of entertainment. I hope to see you next time. Take care.